So, that song we started the night with talks about, Chai betoch klub, living in a cage. It always reminds me of you, actually. Well, first of all, it's something that the character contends with in this book, that he might be facing some time behind bars without giving away much more than that. Also reminds me of the time you helped me adopt my dog, Luna. We drove halfway across this vast country to bring her to my house, and I mentioned I was considering keeping her in a kennel for a little while, and you said, "Zatsuv beklub." Like, it's sad to live in a cage. And I said, you know what else is sad? A house covered in dog shit. But as it turned out, we didn't, she's an angel. She's a perfect dog, better than most people when it comes to, doing her business.
She's wonderful. Yeah. She's absolutely wonderful.
She's wonderful, but the whole living in a cage, so how much of this is autobiographical for you, living in a cage? Now, you can say that this character, whether or not he goes to prison, he's already in prison in his impotency, in his lack of motivation. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, my mom and my grandma are here in the audience, so I don't want to say too much to their discredit, but there's definitely an autobiographical element in the book. Well, I think it's really a universal sort of a coming of age issue that a lot of people are dealing with, coming out of what is comfortable for you, what you are used to, and becoming something greater, something that is independent. So I think it's really about that transformation, which I think most people have to deal with. But there's definitely a lot of elements, especially the background where he lives with his mother, who's all very worried. That's all, of course, being inspired by my personal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing wrong. I mean, I thought of you when he's living with his mother and he's got a toxic relationship with both his mother and his grandmother, but that doesn't mean that's entirely your situation. People live with their parents sometimes. I was living with mine when I was building an empire. You are building one right now. You've not only written a book, you've done all types of very impressive things in your young age. While, living with mom. That's cool, though.
Well, yeah.
So his imprisonment is a state of mind.
Yeah.
More than it is, a physical prison for, and that's the real prison he needs to break out of. So he's some of his challenges are the mundane, going to work at the Tesco. I didn't know what country this was taking place for the first few pages. It's in England.
Of course, it's in London. So about that, it's a good point you're raising. Mm-hmm. The setting, I was writing this as I was sitting with my dear friend Itamar in the Caucasus Mountains in Georgia. And I was first of all, it's so beautiful there. I don't know if any of you have been to Georgia, but
that's Georgia, the country.
Well, obviously, the country.
Well, not obvious to an American, I'll tell you that.
Well, it's an incredibly beautiful place. And every morning I woke up to these amazing mountains. And I was looking at them and I'm like, it's so boring. What is this place? There's just nothing there. And I missed my London. I missed my amazing, vibrant, now it's vibrant on the wrong end, but the London I knew was vibrant in a very positive sense. And I was kind of missing it. So I'm sitting in these mountains thinking about London and what sort of things could happen in London that they would certainly wouldn't have been able to occur in Georgia. So that's about the setting. Does that answer? What did you ask?
I'm not sure, but you were in Georgia saying like, oh, I want my London, and now this character's in London, but he's every bit as bored and stuck in his context. So
about the Tesco as well. You mentioned Tesco. I wanted to say that's also an autobiographical element. I was working in our version of Tesco. I was working in Schufersheim. So I also take that as the baseline. And how to get out of this mundane yet comfortable life. I love my work in Schufersheim. I thought it was great. You get to meet some very interesting, colorful characters on a daily basis. Very colorful. and you deal with that, but it's also comfortable. It's right next to home. There's that as well, element that is also autobiographical, I'd say.
Yeah, it's amazing. These things are left up to our interpretation and evaluation in so many ways. Like you worked at Soup El Sal,
Yes.
and in your life it represented mundane and kind of a dead end. When I was growing up in Harnof, they brought us Soup El Sal, as we called it, and to me, I was a kid, it was this big shiny thing full of fresh cereals.
Big fan of Superstar.
Yeah. It is a symbol of prosperity.
We're not Tesco.
Tesco is also great.
Yeah.
I love Tesco.
What is that, like a symbol? Is that a supermarket?
Oh yeah.
No, I don't actually know. I was picturing a gas station at first because it sounds like an American gas station. This character working at the Tesco, he could see it as, I get to make a little bit of money while building something in my spare time, while writing something, while pursuing a film, which he used to dream of doing. Instead, it's just kind of a mundane job he goes to. He clocks in, he does the bare minimum, and then he rushes straight home where his mother's waiting for him, and he plays video games and waits for the next shift to start.
Exactly. And then that's a life of stagnation.
Yeah.
And a little bit you see it on the colleagues, who are very lovely people, but they don't pursue life to a degree that is beyond what they're used to. They're used to coming to the supermarket every day, do their boring job, go home, sleep, and wake up to do it again the next day. But where does that lead?
Right.
Can you stock shelves till you're 80? That's really what life is about.
If that's your passion, maybe, but most people are not. That's not their passion. They might have. They need to find their passion.
They've given up on their passion.
They've given up, or they never discovered it,
Yeah.
or they never even knew what to look for. And that's nothing more tragic than a man without purpose.
Absolutely.
As he's this is very early in the book, so we're not spoiling. We're just kind of setting the stage. As he's leaving work, he runs into his old buddies, and they kind of pressure him to come out and have a drink with their other old classmates. Again, this could be interpreted very positively. Oh, sure, I'll go down memory lane with my buddies, but to him, it's something he just doesn't want to do, and it brings up emotions that are unpleasant. But he does it not because he wants to challenge himself to do something uncomfortable, but because he's kind of weak and spineless and just does what he's told.
Yes, I would say this is people that if you've asked me already here, what is the book about? And that really goes to the core. It's about what happens when you let life happen to you, which is what happens when his friends drag him into a pub he doesn't want to go to, versus a life that you lead, that you take charge over. So a lot of it is about this transformation from being in a state where life just happens to you, you're passive, to an active life that you actively pursue your values, which is obviously what I advocate for.
Yeah. As the night progresses, he's pressured by his old classmate, his old school buddy, who used to always pressure him to participate in pranks and all types of stuff, that could get him in trouble. His buddy convinces him to go, hit on a couple ladies. Again, not in itself a negative experience.
Absolutely.
He just doesn't want to do it, and his friend pressures him to do it.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very positive thing. We're very pro that.
Yeah.
But if you are not interested to begin with, you shouldn't get pressured.
You think he's a character? Is he gay?
Okay.
I'm just asking.
Well,
It's not
no.
really come up in the book.
Well, he's obviously not gay.
Is it obvious?
Well, I think yes, because it's mentioned in passing that he had various, of course, he had various hookups with various girls.
Oh.
So it's obviously heterosexual through and through. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
A red-blooded heterosexual.
It's just something, a question that occurred to me as we were talking about this.
Oh, absolutely.
So his friend pressures him to go talk to girls.
Yes.
And ends up then dragging him with the ladies back to his apartment, and there he witnesses or doesn't witness something. Something happens which alters his life.
Yes, quite.
And that's where his inner challenges, his inner kind of struggle really sets in. He needs to figure out what to do. He needs to face this mess that he's now in, and he needs to do something.
Exactly. So this idea, which I think it comes from like romantic literature, For example, Les Miserables, which is my favorite musical, but here you've watched that, experienced that.
Best musical ever.
Best musical ever, absolutely. I do think that. The stakes, what is at stake, is extremely high. Like, you will go to jail, you will die. Like, this is not about a casual sort of causal thing that can happen to you. Like, you lose some money. No, it's about going to jail. It's about something very dramatic, because I think when you explore things on that level, when the stakes are that high, then you really, with like a much better clarity, go to the moral principle that is there. You can have a much better conversation about what should you do, what is the moral thing. So a lot of it is also very moralistic, I would say, novella. So yeah, it has a message. It's not just this is what happened and that's it. No, there's a very clear, I think, message there.
It's romantic, it's not naturalistic.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not exploring life as it is, but rather how it should be.
And La Miserable, it's pronounced. I always really wondered how to say that.
Well, I don't speak French, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I've always said they translated this 1,500-page book from French to English. They couldn't translate the title.
Well, I agree. In Hebrew, it has a translation, by the way.
What is it?
It's the miserable people, I think. Al-Uver Chaim. It's it's about
Miserable life.
Miserable life. Exactly.
Yeah. So I haven't seen the musical nor read the book yet. I want to read the book first, and who's got time to start that book? But when I was a kid, there was a cartoon on TV which I think came from England, judging by their accents, called Victor and Hugo, and there were a couple of robbers.
I remember that one.
You remember that one? Okay, it probably was British. And that was my La Miserable. As a kid, that it doesn't have to be the most sophisticated art. It's about what you get from it. It's the inspiration. Not to rob, but to let your imagination run. Whoa.
Absolutely, you have to let it run wild. You have to let it run wild. I would also say that I wanted to write for, and it takes me back actually when I was interviewing you for my channel. We were sitting in Austin, in America, and everything was very distant back then. And one of the things you talked about was the mystery of how one comes up with a plot, the idea of how a story should be built. How do you know what will come, what will occur? And this was something I grappled with for a very long time. I wanted to write something. It was my dream. I want to write a book, a fiction, a novella, poetry. But how do you do it? I grappled with it. So in the Caucasus Mountains, because I was so bored, I found this storytelling course, masterclass, with this really prolific American writer called, I think, Walter Mosley, who's written about 50 books or something like that. And he talked about how to come up with the idea for the book. And what would normally happen with me is like, I want to write a book about independence. I want to write a book about justice, okay? The abstract ideas that I want to convey. And what he said on the first lesson is, no, you think about the characters. What sort of people do you wish to tell a story about? Who is the character? And the moment I thought, who is the character, I immediately got the idea for the novel. So maybe some advice for those of you who are wanting to write on your own. Think about the characters. It really, really helps.
Yeah, think about the character. This character name is David.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff to me. You love England and you love Germany, two places where the Jews were at one point recommended to leave.
Yes, absolutely.
You think there's a little bit of this thing? I've been obviously kind of fascinated with the Jewish experience recently.
Yeah.
Like the Jews love to kind of be the outsider looking in.
Yeah, the Jewish question is really something I've been grappling with personally through my various travels around Europe. It definitely occupies me all the time. I'm a big fan, and I think the Jews, as the Jews were in the 19th century, they were the biggest fans, or the enlightened Jews that is, they were the biggest fans of what Europe is. They were the best interpreters of that Europe. If you think about the great Jewish writers, for example, Stefan Zweig was an incredible writer. He was a Jew Yet he was working in the European framework. He was doing a proper European fiction. Or you take the great composers like Felix Mendelssohn, or of course Gustav Mahler. They were Jews who understood Europe better perhaps than the Europeans did. And that is this grappling. Yet you admire Europe, but you're not allowed to be part of that Europe. But it is in this sort of grappling that I find something interesting. I find that there's this struggle, and that's something very interesting, I think, to write about. When everything is happy, when we're all like sitting and everything is good, there's nothing to argue about, nothing to grapple with, then I just don't find the inspiration. When I go to Deutschland, I have a lot of inspirations for things to write about. Because I look at the places and I see the history, I see what happened here. I see this cafe, for example. I have a poem about a cafe who was founded in 1860. And I'm thinking, what sort of events were you a witness to this cafe? What sort of things happened to you? Like, you were here where it was all covered with swastika flags. And to me, that's just very interesting. There's something to write about. How I deal with it, and what is the solution? What is the solution to the Jewish problem? A final one, hopefully. And so another word, the next word, hopefully, that will release is about that, the Jewish question.
Yeah.
So it's about these travels around Europe. So I have a lot of things related.
That sounds like it's going to be something deeply insightful. It does seem like no matter how enlightened the world gets, anti-Semitism is like the last thing, the last hurdle that's always kind of a bridge too far for a lot of people. In the Jewish culture, stereotypically kids are encouraged by their parents to be creative. You want to make films, make films. Some would say still go to medical school, but still. If you like films, be a filmmaker. Whereas this character's mother tells him, no time for nonsense, don't try, get a stable job, and that's all you need to do. So I think a culture that fosters success and creativity is, produces results, and, up and complete envy.
I think it's very universal struggle. I think a lot of people have a particular passion.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be a singer, but your parents are a singer. Could you do it? But if nobody succeeds as a singer, you might as well be a doctor. It's safe, pension. So there's grappling. I heard it through my upbringing, and I'm sure many people here have also heard that, and it's something that we have to overcome. Like, I'm very lucky from my mother's perspective, for example, where she would always say that whatever I want, I can do it. I can achieve it. But when you're brought up with a sense of incompetence, you can't do it, it has a real traumatic effect. You can't, unless you're strong enough to overcome it.
Some cultures it's beaten out of them. Some cultures they beat up the kid who's creative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions before we wrap this up?
Yes.
Jack.
Yes,
What's
Jack.
next? What are you working on next?
So what's next? As I said, it has a lot to do with the Jewish question. It has a lot to do with Europe, the experience of being a Jew in Europe nowadays, post October 7th. It's poetry mostly. I've lately been grappling a lot with poetry, and I think it's a really original work because I take poems, a series of poems, and I arrange it as a symphony. So there are movements. You have a group of poems that is a movement, and then another movement of different poems in different places, and it's quite an unusual form that I've developed. I haven't seen it anywhere else, and I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. So do follow me for that, but I publish all the time. I have my Substack. If you're not following me, do follow me at philosophyididit.com, where I publish on a weekly basis. But there's a lot of things coming up. I have another story as well, which is set in Sydney, actually, which is another place
That's in Australia.
It's in Australia.
You have another question?
For the Americans out there, it's in Australia. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So, for the future readers of
Yes.
your book, before we read it,
Yeah.
what do you recommend does every author has a purpose, right?
Yeah.
What is the objective of your book? What do you want to convey? Like, what should we think about going into reading the book? Because I think that every time I read a book, I'm like, I wish I knew, like, what's the intention of the author,
Yeah.
so I can really enjoy the book.
That's a beautiful question. So my goal, I would say, and it's something that definitely need to develop more and more as I go, is I would say to first of all be extremely emotionally vulnerable. I think art, great art, comes from being able to convey whatever that you feel in a very candid, vulnerable sort of way. So I would say it's to put and this goes to my greatest influence, which is Gustav Mahler. If you haven't listened to his symphonies, do listen to them. They're the most vulnerable pieces of art ever composed. It's as if he's putting himself naked in front of you and you listen to his whole psyche. That's what the experience is like. So I would say that's my primary goal, is to reach that level of whatever it is that I'm grappling with. So this book, for example, I grappled with the issue of independence, the issue of passivity versus activity. So it's, first of all, it's a very, I would say, sort of a selfish point of view for me, because I want to get that sorted. I want to get that challenge and something that I've grappled with, and I want to convey to the world how or perhaps the principles behind the way in which I grappled with it, so you can also hopefully be inspired by that. So I hope that answers the question.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Any
question.
questions?
Great question.
Maybe,
Yes, Nicole.
very interesting what you said about the importance of choosing like characters before everything else and before like the topic really of the book. What about the writing style? Like as you said that like you're thinking about poems and then this is a novel. Like, did you choose the style according to the message that you want to convey? Can you tell me a little bit more on the choice?
Yeah, the choice of form.
Yes, choice of form, yes.
Yes, so I would say first it comes from the fact that my biggest dream was always to write a novel. It's a novella, it's a short novel. It's worth stressing. If you guys don't have time to read a big novel, don't worry, it's under 100 pages. Okay? so that was first of all what set me off. I want to write a novel. I had a dream of writing a novel. And I found that it just works for the character I came up with. But as I went on writing more and more, really developing a habit of writing, which I have, I started to play around with form. Mm-hmm. I don't think form is something you just have to abide with. It's as if it's the final word of the prophet. It's really not that, from what my experience at least. There's a lot of good reasons why forms are the way they are, but if something works for me, for example, taking poetry and combining it into a symphony in prose, it works for me. I like it. I enjoy writing it. Then same goes for you. If you write like that, you like it. Don't worry about it. Worry about putting things out there. I would say worry about writing. You want to be a better writer? Write. If you don't write, you never get better. That's, I would say, the most fundamental. I have a poem about feedback, which is a very difficult thing. How to deal with feedback. At the end of the day, you're the only one who's truly invested in your work. The person who gives you feedback might be invested for a few minutes. He might very well be invested for a few minutes, or maybe like a few hours even, if he's giving you really good feedback. But at the end of the day, you are the one who's stuck with your own work. So you have to like it. And if the person gives you the most, has the best credits and he thinks he knows best, doesn't matter. Doesn't bloody matter. What matters is that you love the work that you create. So if your form is unusual or it's extremely usual, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. What works for you is the best way to go about it. Yeah?
Who would you say influenced you?
So as I said, of course, it's a big influence, I have to say.
I meant like literally.
Literarily, so I would say biggest influence was The Stranger. by Albert Camus. It has a lot of similarities, actually. If you read The Stranger, if you're familiar, it's also similar length. There's also Crime and Punishment, in the sense of the stakes. Is also a romantic writer, and of course also Ayn Rand, who was in the same lineage. But the style, I would say, is not like hers. It's more like Camus in the roughness and very much matter-of-factly a lot of the times. It's not as poetic or descriptive as other ones. So that's how you see the influences.
Eddie, last question.
You mentioned Felix Mendelssohn earlier. So
Yes.
he was the grandson of Moses
Moses, of
Mendelssohn,
course.
who actually started what's now known as Reformed Judaism.
Yes.
These were people who really understood themselves and their backgrounds and their roots in a very, very real way. How important do you think it is in understanding the world around you to really understand your inner life?
That's a beautiful question. It really relates also to my next word. You can't get away from it, especially as Jews. We can't get away from it. We might think that we can, but our Jewish identity is an inseparable part of who we are, and we have enemies that always remind us of it. Doesn't mean that you have to follow the religion, of course, but you have to understand that you are a particular type of person that people see as enemy. People want to kill you for being a Jew. That's something you have to take very seriously. But of course, you can have various ideas and you can do everything. That doesn't mean you have to follow whatever set of rules that might be relevant. But you have to understand who you are, also individually, of course. Most importantly, individually. What are your values? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What is important for you in life? You have to figure out all these things. And writing, by the way, is the best way of figuring that out. When you write about something that is, to me, the best act of introspection. Writing is introspection, particularly poetry, at least from my experience. And that goes to the other point about vulnerability. You have to be able to write things that you might not be very comfortable with other people reading, but that's fine. Nobody will hate you for that. They will hate you more if you try to be someone else. That's at least what I think.
That's it.
Yes.
It's not a question, just an idea for the future. Because sometimes we have, like, first person, I have ideas of something that I would like to write, but I don't have the tools to do it, and you experienced it in this novel and poems. If you maybe in the future could think about doing some writing workshops or storytelling, something to help us develop.
We are actually starting a writing group
That's
Oh
right.
wow! Oh, that's great.
from
That's right.
a meeting in here. So
Oh wow!
That's right. In this beautiful house, they're going to be doing a writing workshop. But let me say something that might upset Jack.
I don't think you can do that.
You don't need a workshop to write.
Okay.
You don't need a group of people to sit with you to write. That's nonsense. Okay? You need to write. You sit down and you write. That's how you become a writer. Whatever group of people you can gather, that's fine. That's good. I'm not against that. That's beautiful. You can get good, deep insights about how to improve. You learn from other people's experience. But at the end of the day, it's you with your piece of paper. Okay? And if you don't have that, a group won't help you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You won't hurt you.
All right. The Wake of Silence is for sale here tonight. Please buy a copy and support young artistry. Thank you all so much for being part of it.